Hi, and welcome to Healing Our Kindred Spirits. My name is Donna Gaudette, and I'm so excited to have you here with us today. And we're going to dive into a topic that I know many of you will resonate with, and that is reinventing your life at any stage. I've had a couple of questions that people have sent to me, and this seems to be a topic that is generally wanting to know more. So we've all faced moments when life didn't go as planned, whether it's a career setback, a relationship ending, or simply feeling stuck. The good news is reinvention is not only possible, but it can also lead to the most fulfilling chapter of your life. And guess what? It's never too late. Today I'll be sharing inspiring examples, actionable steps, and ways to ensure you to stay motivated through the process. So grab a notebook, find a comfy spot, and let's talk about how you can take charge of your story and create the life you truly want. Welcome. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about what does reinventing your life mean and how can you make that happen. Reinvention doesn't mean starting over or erasing everything you've done. It's about growth, evolution, and creating a version of yourself that aligns with where you want to be now, not where you thought you'd be 10 years ago. So reinventing your life just means making intentional changes to your mindset, your habits, your circumstances that align more closely with your values, your goals, and what you want in life. It's a process of growth, transformation, and it's often driven by a desire to overcome challenges and find greater fulfillment. And you can even adapt to the new life stages or situations, but it may take time. Reinvention isn't about abandoning your past, but building on it to create a new, more authentic version of yourself. And reinvention is about embracing the possibility that life can change for the better, no matter where you're starting from. There's a quote from Brene Brown, who's an amazing author, speaker. I just resonate with all of her work. And one of the quotes that resonates with me is, "You can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you cannot have both." So what does that mean? It just simply means that change is uncomfortable. When making a significant life shift, whether relationships, career, or even personal growth, you must be willing to step out of your comfort zone. And courage means embracing uncertainty and pushing past fear. Many of us have been in situations where change is very uncomfortable. It's scary. We have a fear of it. We're not sure what the outcome is going to be. We want guarantees. Well, we know in life there are no guarantees, but we need to have that courage to make the changes we need in order to have the life that we want to have to fulfill us. So why is reinvention necessary? Why do we need to reinvent ourselves? Often it's because life throws us curveballs. Things like job loss, divorce, illness, or even the global pandemic. How many people had to shift and pivot during the pandemic? And it was uncomfortable for many people. A lot of people, their business model had to shift. They had to change. People had to suddenly work from home. Kids had to suddenly do distance learning through Zoom or through Google Classroom or wherever it was set up for their school. It was a change that people needed to pivot. It was out of necessity. And it was hard at first, and it was a lot of growing pains, but eventually people learned from it. And sometimes through that learning process, we can create better lives for ourselves. And even after a significant life event, like a job loss, a divorce, even a health diagnosis, what about when you're feeling stuck or unfulfilled or disconnected from your purpose? That's happened to me many times in my life. What about if you're at a major milestone or transition? Maybe you're turning 40 or 50, or maybe you're retiring. Maybe you're becoming an empty nester and you're realizing what you're doing now in your life, whether for a job or where you live, your hobbies, maybe they're not aligning anymore with who you are now at this point in your life. And I want you to know that reinvention isn't about discarding your past or erasing your experiences. That has made who you are you. And it's not necessarily a dramatic overhaul. Sometimes it's small, consistent changes that lead to the most profound transformations. And reinvention is about reclaiming your narrative, embracing your potential, and even crafting a life that feels meaningful and aligned with who you are today, not who you were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And to know that it's never too late to start. And the process is unique to every individual. So today we're going to talk about the steps of taking those steps to reinvent your life. But I wanted to share my story or my experiences with how I had to change my life and pivot to what I was doing. And my first experience with reinventing my life happened in 1995 when I was going through a difficult divorce. I had 2 young children and I really had no marketable skills. I was a stay-at-home mom, worked part-time, mother's hours. I had only worked just part-time jobs since becoming a mom. And I didn't have much experience in anything that was going to be able to pay a living wage. And that was scary. So when my kids were born and they were little, I did all kinds of jobs, from carding jewelry to working in a bookstore to anything that I could do at home or mother's hours, which would usually be like 9 to 1. But I knew I needed to learn skills to be able to find a job that paid decently. So where this was just the beginning of the technology age, so to speak, and more people were having home computers, I did have one, and I taught myself as much as I could about using one, how to use it. And back then, in 1995, very archaic computers at the time compared to what we have now. Everything was in a different language, many things different language, different programs, software. It's not like it is today where you could just go to YouTube and watch a video. So I had to teach myself as much as I could of as many programs as I could, and especially Microsoft Office. And it was out of necessity that I had to reinvent my life to be able to take care of my children and myself. It was scary, and it took a lot of courage. And my first full-time job as a single parent, I was paid $7.40 an hour. This was back in 1995. I worked for a computer board manufacturing company for almost 2 years building PC boards. It was a job called the slide line, and we had schematics in front of us, and we had to put very minute little computer parts into the board. It was kind of like a puzzle, and you had to follow those schematics. And I did this for 2 years. And I gradually worked my way up to expediting, and I left that job when I was offered a temp to perm position for a major pharmacy retailer. And at that time, that job was a godsend because it was a step up from what I was doing, and it was much closer to home. So I went from making $7.40 an hour to $11 an hour. So by that time, I had remarried, and the job, again, was very close to home. And over the years, life changes, financial changes, health problems, and everything comes along, and you find yourself having to reinvent yourself again. So fast forward to 2004, my kids had finished high school, and I knew it was time for me to go back to school. It was kind of like an empty nest, but I knew that once the kids finished school, it's not that my job as a mom was done, but having that responsibility of the day-to-day lessened a little bit. And I knew that it was time for me to do what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what that was. And I was terrified. I went back to school at 42 years old, not having any clue what I was getting into. And I continued to work my full-time job, and I went to school Monday through Thursday every evening from 6 to 10. I'd work my full-time salaried job till 4:30, 5 o'clock, get home, prepare dinner for my family, be back out of the door by 5:20 to head to school. And my weekends were filled with homework, taking care of household chores. But I was fortunate and blessed to have a very good support system with my dad and my husband. And that's crucial to have that kind of support. If you can have any kind of support when you're making these changes, it's very helpful. So between 2004 and 2009, I found myself reinventing my life again to add to the new life that I created of not just being a mom or a wife, but who I was. I had learned many things along the way. I became a licensed massage therapist. I was still working full-time at my salary job, and I was fascinated and thirsty for knowledge. And I learned many, many holistic healing modalities, as well as taking any classes or workshops that I could on spiritual development. This was something that called to my soul, and I had to follow that. I listened to my intuition and let myself follow that. And I found both paid and free classes and workshops to add to that thirst for knowledge, because I knew I was coming into a different phase in my life, and I wanted to be open to that. So when I look at my numerous diplomas and certificates, ranging from everything from becoming a Reiki master teacher over a few years to a certified hypnotherapist, I am proud of what I did when I learned to accept that what no longer was working in my life had to change. No one could make that choice for me. I had to make it. It's not that I was stuck in a rut, but I knew that I wanted more for me at this point in my life. When I think back to that scared 32-year-old single mom who didn't know where her next meal was going to come from or if she could provide for her children, and looking at my life today, I am proud of taking that road less traveled and taking the chance to reinvent my life. I wasn't forgetting or eliminating who I was or what I was, but when we grow as a human, sometimes we no longer fit into the roles or the world that we have been a part of for so long. And there's no shame in that. That's bravery. It's showing vulnerability at its most highest form. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And let's get real, life is hard, but you need to show up and be seen and work hard to get where you want in life. No one is going to hand it to you. The reinvention of myself in my life, I used to refer to it as Donna 2.0. And have you ever wondered in your life, why am I here and what is my purpose? I think the reiterations of reinventing my life when I had to several times always inched me closer to that answer, but it took courage and accountability. And when I was brave enough to really take a long, hard look at where I was and who I was and what I was doing here, I was allowing myself to get honest with myself to who I was at that stage in my life. And it could have been totally different from 10 years before. And in 10 years, it may be different again. But at that point, that was where I was at. And it was not easy. And it was a lot of trial and error and a lot of tears. And also a lot of resistance, because we know with change, we tend to resist because we're so afraid to fail. And I had a lot of fear. I didn't have a lot of self-confidence. I didn't have a lot of self-esteem. And I didn't think that I could do things, but I knew that I could if I put my mind to it. And believe me, I failed at many, many things in life. I made bad decisions that I thought were right at the time. I chose paths that took me the long way around, but I did not give up. I did not give in. And to me, my character is the type that I will never give in. I will not give up. I will keep going. When I had to leave my job due to illness in 2010, I had to work on my physical and emotional health for 2 years to be able to feel that I could be the version of myself that I knew I was and could be again. That was a very difficult road that was met with bouts of depression, anxiety, and agoraphobia, which is the fear of leaving the house. I wasn't sure I had it in me to reinvent myself again, but I knew if I took all the lessons, all of the heartache, the hard work, the determination, and the grit I knew I still had, I could do anything. And I failed many times and fell flat on my face more times than I can remember. But when something is worth doing, you just keep doing it. When I think of the times that I failed, I looked at them as failures, or thought that I failed, or what I identified as failures. But what they were learning experiences. All those perceived mistakes or challenges were building blocks. When something brings you so much joy and you know it's leading you down the right path, it's not a failure. It's a lesson or a blessing, or as I like to call, a blessing. Blesson, blessing. And a blesson is a blessing wrapped in a lesson. I did not create the word. I did read it somewhere a long time ago, and it resonated with me, and it clicked for me. And I knew that I couldn't look at what I perceived as failures as a failure, but as a blessing, because I did learn from them. In 2017, when I had to leave my teaching position where I taught therapeutic massage and body work at a technical school, it was devastating. I had worked so hard to get to where I was, and I was so happy with my life. I never thought I would have to yet again reinvent my life. I knew at some point I would have to pick up the pieces and try again, but that would not come easily. And fast forward to 2024, and for a couple of years leading into that, I knew I'd wanted to do something purposeful. I knew I could no longer do what I used to do, which was teaching massage therapy, having my healing practice. I no longer have the mobility or the ability to be able to stand for longer periods of time or sit for long periods of time. And my body is riddled with pain on a daily basis. And the medication that I have to take to be able to function with the pain does affect my cognitive abilities at times. And it still does to this day. But I missed what I used to do, and I missed having a purpose, and I missed feeling like I accomplished something in life. My therapist had told me many times that because of who I am and what my unique skill set was, and still is, that I needed to find a way to channel that. I was missing the vital essence of who I was, which is someone who feels purposeful being of service. She told me that I may not be able to do what I used to do in the way I used to do it, but I could find a new way to do it. I know that sounds like a mouthful, but it was true. I needed to find a way to fulfill my spiritual needs while taking care of my physical and mental health. And here I am with this podcast. I reinvented my goals, my mission, my reason for wanting to be able to continue offering my mentoring skill set, to be able to help others. And by nature, I'm a teacher and a writer and I'm a giver. But having learned the hard way that things don't always work out the way you plan, you have to be willing to put in the work, even though it may not work out the way you think it will. You have to be open to the plan and change it to fit what may be what I call a twist in the plan. And at 61 years old, I never thought I would be doing this at this stage of my life, but here I am, and I am happy. To me, it wasn't something that I had to do, but something that I felt I needed to do. It was a calling. And so many times throughout my life, I have reinvented my life based on what was going on in my life, which is probably what you will do too. And I needed to set my life in a way that aligned with my beliefs and my true identity at this stage of my life. And sometimes it was totally different than what it was before. And at times it aligned perfectly and it was seamless. But you have to be open to the unexpected and be realistic of your goals in your plan. Nothing is perfect. We could talk about things the 6 ways to Sunday. But at the end of the day, it's what works for you and what feels good for you. So why would you reinvent yourself? Well, some of the elements of reinventing your life is letting go of outdated roles or labels and embracing a new sense of self. Sometimes you're ready for that. Sometimes you're not quite there. But say, for example, you're transitioning from a corporate job to becoming a creative entrepreneur. That's something that you've always wanted to do, and it fits within your life right now. Give it a chance. And you want to align with your values. Examine what truly matters to you, shape your life around those priorities. For example, if shifting focus from material success to relationships, health, or personal growth is something you want to do, explore that. And then we need to adapt to new circumstances, such as a career change, like I said, an empty nest, retirement, and learning new skills, sometimes in a different industry, or pursuing your passion, is something that can be really life-altering for you. And sometimes when we let go of the past, we release the regrets, the limiting beliefs, or fears that hold us back. When we let go of that, we can step into our potential. And we can take the bold steps toward those goals or dreams, even if it feels scary or uncertain. Maybe you want to write a book, start a business, move to a new city. Those things can be scary, but if you put the work into it, it can be successful. So let's break down into clear, actionable steps to get you started on your reinvention journey. So grab that notebook, because this is where we're going to make things happen. Step 1, reflect on where you are now. Take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, what is working in my life right now? What isn't working? What do I truly value, and am I living in alignment with those values? Write it all down, re-listen to this podcast. Getting it out of your head and onto paper helps clarify your next steps. For example, maybe you're in a career path that pays well, but leaves you unfulfilled. We have all been there. Start by identifying what would make you feel excited to get up in the morning. That's what I did. What would make me get excited to be up in the morning? What fulfills my soul? And maybe it's something spiritual. Maybe it's something physical, something mental. What makes you happy? And then step 2, create a vision for your future. Next, think about where you want to be a year from now. What about 5 years from now? What about even next month? Visualization is powerful. What does your ideal life look like? Just because you don't think that can happen doesn't mean that it won't. Visualize it. We have no idea how powerful our thoughts are. And when you align with those positive thoughts, that's where the magic happens. One exercise I love is writing a letter to your future self. Imagine it's a year from today and you've accomplished everything you wanted. What would you tell yourself about how you got there? For example, if you wanted to start your own business, your letter might say, I finally launched that side hustle that I've been dreaming about, and it's growing every day. It helps you to stay focused on the bigger picture. Step 3, take small, consistent actions. Now, here's where the magic happens. Small, consistent steps. Break your goals into smaller, actionable pieces. If you're reinventing your career, maybe step 1 is updating your resume or taking an online course in a desired field. And I don't know if you've ever heard of SMART goals, S-M-A-R-T, but SMART goals are structured approach to goal setting that ensures your objectives are clear, realistic, and achievable. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So I'm going to go over each one, briefly, but when you have a chance, look them up and you'll be able to get a better explanation. So SMART, specific. Clearly define what you want to accomplish. Answer the question, who, what, where, why. Instead of saying, I want to get fit, say, I want to run a 5K in my city. These are just examples. Measurable. Include criteria to measure your progress and success. Ask, how will I know when I've achieved this? And the example would be, I will run 3 times a week and track my distance until I can run 5K without stopping. You see how that's measurable? You're doing something that you can measure so you know you've made that next step. Achievable. Set goals that are realistic and attainable. Considering your current resources and constraints. Not everybody has the same lifestyle. You have to adapt it to what you have going on in your life. Maybe you have little children. Maybe you're a caregiver. Maybe you're taking care of someone who's ill. Maybe you've lost your job and you don't have a lot of income. Whatever works for you, that has to be attainable considering your constraints and your resources. And ask yourself, is this within my reach given my current situation? And then the example would be, I will train for 8 weeks, gradually increasing my distance and stamina. So that's something that you feel is achievable. Apply that to what you could do to achieve your goals. And relevant. R is relevant. Ensure your goals align with your broader values and your long-term aspirations. Ask yourself, why is this goal important to me? An example to answer that would be, running a 5K will improve my fitness and help me feel more confident. And again, apply it to whatever you have that you want to achieve in your life. I'm just giving you an example. And then T, time bound. Set a deadline to create urgency and maintain focus. If we don't set a timeline on something, then that goal just becomes a dream. It doesn't become actionable. You can have the best of intentions, but if you don't set a deadline for it, even a deadline can be moved, the goalpost can be moved, but you need to kind of put a timeline on it. So ask, when do I want to achieve this goal? An example, going with the 5K race, I will run a 5K race by April 30th. So the SMART goal example would be, I will complete a 5K race in my city on April 30th by training 3 days a week for the next 8 weeks, gradually increasing my distance each week. So that's what the SMART goal looks like together. And this method helps break down big aspirations into actionable steps, keeping you focused and motivated. And when I learned about SMART goals, and I applied this when I started reinventing my life, no matter where I was or what I was doing, it was very, very helpful. And remember, the key to start where you are and what you have. You don't need to have it figured out, all of it to begin with. So let's get back to step number 4. Build a support system. Reinvention is easier when you surround yourself with the right people. What happens if you have the wrong people? If you have the wrong people, you're not going to feel motivated. You're not going to feel supported, encouraged. You're not going to want to do it. They won't hold you accountable. And so by having a support system, you can share your goals with a trusted friend or a mentor, and even join a community or network of people who share your interests and aspirations. If your goal is to read 4 books in a month, join a book group, join a book club, do something that can help you have that support system. And a great example is the community accountability groups. If you're trying to get fit, a fitness group can help you stay on track. If you're launching a new project, a mastermind group can provide feedback and encouragement. There's many, many different social aspects to this. One in particular comes to mind that I used many years ago. It's called meetup.com. And any interest you have, you can find a group on there, whether online or in person, to be able to meet with other like-minded people, or I like to call other kindred spirits, that can support you on your journey. So check that out. It's called meetup.com, and it's in every state, city, community. Check it out. And step number 5, be willing to learn and adapt. Some of us are creatures of comfort, and some of us crave change. But reinvention is a process of trial and error. And like I told you, I had a lot of trials and errors. Don't be afraid to experiment, and don't let failure stop you. Every misstep is a lesson that brings you closer to where you want to be. Don't give up. If this is something you truly, truly want, don't give up before the magic happens. What are some obstacles that you'll find that could come your way? And there are obstacles. And this wouldn't be realistic if I didn't let you know there's going to be obstacles. And some challenges that you might face is the biggest one, like I did, fear of failure. But reframe failure as feedback. Ask yourself, what did I learn from this? Again, going back to the blessing, what did I learn from this? And of course, at times when we're learning something new and we think we have it all figured out, there's a term called imposter syndrome. And I went through that when I was planning this podcast. I would talk myself out of it, saying, what makes me think that I'm an expert in this, or what makes me think I can talk about that? And I don't have all the answers, but research and staying at it, keep finding what works for you, keep finding the way you need to cultivate the data, the information, all of that will help you overcome imposter syndrome. Remember, even the most successful people feel this way, but focus on progress, not perfection. And if you're a perfectionist, like I am, and many people are like that, and my colleague Megan comes to mind when I think of this, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. And again, perfection kills creativity, so just keep at it. And of course, we have the financial concerns. Like many people, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of resources. I had to get creative and look for free workshops and classes. Look online. There are so many places to be able to take free classes and workshops. It's out there. There's so much opportunity, more than what there was when I was first starting out. And start small. Use free or low-cost resources like online courses, community programs, just to help you build momentum. And when you're on that journey, you want to stay motivated. So reinvention isn't a one-and-done deal. It's an ongoing process. And it's very crucial, very important to remember to practice gratitude daily and to keep your mindset as positive as you can be. I'm not talking about toxic positivity, but when you practice gratitude every day, the more grateful you are, the more reasons you find to be grateful. And that's a mantra that I say every day. And celebrate small wins along the way. You may have something that came along and you were like, oh my God, this worked out perfectly the way I wanted to. Celebrate those wins. They may not seem huge in the bigger scheme of things, but every little step you take and every little thing that is helping you, celebrate that. And reflect on your why when the going gets tough. Why isn't this working out? Why isn't it doing what I wanted to do? Why am I not further along? Reflect on that when the going gets tough. And don't give up. You're not just changing your life. You're creating a story that you'll be proud to tell. Let me repeat that again because it's worth repeating again. You're not just changing your life. You're creating a story you'll be proud to tell. And again, reinvention is one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself. No matter your age, your stage of life, You hold the pen to your story. Don't let someone else write it. You have the pen. And here's my challenge to you. Write down one area of your life you want to reinvent. Start small. Then write the first step you'll take this week to make it happen. Little baby steps. And I'd love to hear from you. Send me your stories or questions, and let's keep this conversation going. Again, I can be reached through email at healingourkindredspirits@gmail.com. I can be reached on our group page, which is Healing Our Kindred Spirits Podcast on Facebook. Just reach out to other kindred spirits in our community. They're willing to help. They're willing to answer questions. It's a private Facebook group that you will find other kindred spirits that are just like you. And just know that you're not alone. You're never alone, ever, on this journey. When you think you are alone, think of my voice and telling you that you are not alone. I want to thank you for tuning in today for this episode. And remember, it's never too late to reinvent yourself. And the best time to start is right now. So until next time, keep dreaming big, taking small steps, and build a life you love. Thank you for joining us.